All right, Tyler, I've talked enough. Give us 3 keys to victory for Tennessee in this game.
Well, I think number one, they need to run the football. So Miami's run defense has actually been one of the better run defenses in the NFL. I believe they're top 12, top 13, like 112 yards allowed per game. But the Titans only ran the ball 11 times for 33 yards last week. And with how bad the pass protection is, that simply isn't good enough. Now, a lot of that had to do with game flow and the game script with the Packers getting up quite a bit. But this is a Brian Callahan thing. To me, this is a guy who is a pass-heavy guy. That's where he feels comfortable. And when things get kind of sketchy, he wants to go back to his comfort blanket, the quick timing passing game. The problem is you don't have Joe Burrow. You have Will Levis. And Levis has showed that he is much more comfortable in the play-action pass game. And I know that there are studies out there that show that you don't really need the run game to be successful to have success in play action.
It's nonsense.
But to me, it's not just a setting up the play action pass. It's putting your offensive line in less situations where it's just a pure drop back passing game. So the Titans have to find a way to run the football far better than they have in the second half of the first 2 games. Mm-hmm. And then in the full game last week, they have to be able to run the football better, not only because you look around the NFL, the run game is back. And Kyle, I know you're somebody who pays attention to not just what your team is doing, but NFL trends. And if you look with all the 2 high safety shells, people are looking to run the ball more. That's how you attack. If people are going to keep 2 safeties back deep. So I think the Titans have to run the football with more success. Also, on defense, they got to find a way to get pressure. You're playing against backup quarterbacks, and last week you didn't make Malik Willis work for it at all. He had a lot of clean pockets, and they gave up a lot of 3rd and longs, like I mentioned before, because they simply could not get pressure on the quarterback, something that I was worried about all season with Arden Key as a starter. Arden Key is not a starting edge in the NFL, and the Titans have not gotten enough interior pressure from Jeffrey Simmons and Tavondre Sweat, like everybody in training camp and preseason said that they would. So the Titans have to find a way to get pressure on the quarterback, especially a backup quarterback, to make those mistakes happen. The Titans have not forced a turnover through 3 games, and the Denard Wilson defense is built on getting turnovers. That's what we've been told all season long. So you're not going to get turnovers if you don't get pressure on the quarterback. And quite frankly, I think the Titans need to blitz more. We heard from Denard Wilson that, Greg Williams and Todd Bowles are my big influences and stuff like that. Okay, well, those guys are blitz heavy guys, and the Titans are not in the top 10 in blitz percentage. The Dolphins blitz more than the Titans. The Titans have only blitzed 26.4%. So I think Denard Wilson needs to wake up and realize that his front 4 pass rushers are not going to get pressure on their own, and they need to dial up pressure and blitzes on 3rd downs to try to get to the quarterback more. And then finally, I keep saying this. It's kind of a running joke on my keys to victory that I keep saying this exact thing, but no big mistakes, please. Like no punt blocks, no stupid penalties that turn into points for the other offense, no pick sixes, no fumbles. Like the Titans just have to play a clean game. It's kind of crazy that the Titans have given up 25 points off turnovers. Mm-hmm. And if you count the punt block that went for a touchdown against Chicago, that's 31. And the Titans' margin of defeat right now is 30 points. There's your points. There's your margin. It's the turnover. So they got to be able to run the football. They got to be able to get pressure on the quarterback, and they can't have any silly, stupid turnovers. And if they do those, they should be a better team than this version of the Miami Dolphins. And if they don't do those things, they're going to find themselves at 0-4, and the season is truly over by the bye week.
Yeah, and for Miami, I think the biggest thing for me, and I mentioned situational red zone stuff last week against Seattle and said, well, your metrics, your scoring offensively, when you get into the red zone, it's not good. And then defensively, when other teams get in the red zone, it's really bad. And it got even worse. The Dolphins got inside the 10-yard line twice, came away with 3 points against Seattle. So if you get short fields, if they give you short fields, if you have a tip ball for an interception that starts on the 7-yard line, like what you dealt with this past week against Seattle, those have to be touchdowns, right? The Dolphins, 25% of their trips into the red zone have yielded touchdowns. They're 2 of 8 through 3 games. Defensively, 6 out of 7 opponent trips into the red zone have yielded touchdowns. That is 31st and 30th in the NFL Like it could not be worse for you once you get into the red area. And that's where you look at potentially a quarterback that has some run game threat with Mike McDaniel and his background
Mhm.
going back to Washington with RG3. And can you tap into those roots and get that extra hat in the run game? They're having a really hard time getting outside. Oh, they are averaging less than 2.7 yards per carry off the left and right end this season.
Ooh.
All other
Ooh.
gaps, it's over 4.4 yards per carry.
Well,
But
that'll
their
be extra
volume,
interesting. Because the
yeah.
Titans are really good on the interior, but have sloppy edge play. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think that's another key one for Miami is getting the outside run game going. Whether that's Devon
Mhm.
Achane, who has the dominant workload for you thus far. Jalen Wright looked really good in a couple of carries the past 2 weeks, but hasn't got a lot of volume as a rookie. How can you ignite that spark to get outside and get on the edge and test Tennessee's ability to tackle? You mentioned some of the tackling from this
Mhm.
past week. That's a big thing. You've got speed, you've got playmakers. They like to run these perimeter screens. Jalen Waddle stopping and cutting back into the backs of his blockers instead of just getting north and trying to force a tackle and challenge somebody with an
Mhm.
angle and trying to run through it. He's trying to find more green grass. So that's another one for Miami is finding the winning plays on the perimeter have not been there. Even if it's the running game, if it's the screen game, if it's quarterback run game, whatever it looks like. The Dolphins have to get that going. And I would say their early down success is especially critical. They kind of turned their nose up at it this past week against Seattle. They had those successes running the ball between the tackles, and then they got away from it. And there were some negative plays on the outside, and then you're in third and longs with backup quarterback play. Tyler, the Dolphins were 1 of 15 on third and fourth down combined against Seattle. They're at 32% for the season on third and fourth
Ah.
down combined. They're 1 of 10 on fourth down in 3 games. You got to get those short situations and give
Mhm.
yourself as big of a menu as you possibly can to call plays that give you a chance to convert those and convert that into continuing to possess the football. If the Dolphins can do those things, you're going to give yourself a chance to win a football game that's probably going to be a low scoring, tight to the vest game. But if not, then that's going to feed more into Tennessee's pathway to victory as well.
Well, we're looking at two teams that are definitely desperate for a win to keep their season alive. And I think that you're going to see that desperation in the play calling. Personally, I think we're going to see both these teams literally pulling out everything they can to try to get this win.